Now before I talk about my subject, I want to do little maths, right? Now because if you're sitting in the orientation of anthropology, most of you must have at least seen the syllabus, at least the least that I can expect. If not, nothing to worry. I'll give you a brief understanding. And to be very precise, the session would go on approximately for 1 hour maximum, right? Little maths with respect to mains examination. Now when you look at mains, in general, if you look at the qualifying marks, it is approximately 750 for a general candidate. Yes. Now, I would say pre-2019 and post-2019 calculations. When I say pre-2019 calculation, you see, in GS, getting 400 was comparatively easy. One. And in some paper like essay, scoring 140 was easy. Now when I had 400 plus in GS, 140 in essay, how much it is becoming? 540. All that is required in my optional here was approximately 230. I don't want to undermine, I would say 250. Yes? This is summing up to somewhere 790 approximate. Post 2019. When you look at the scale of GS, in GS1 the range has been 90 to 100. In general, I am talking about the average scores. In GS2, 100 to 110 is doable. In GS3, it's been 75 to 85. And in GS4, again 100 to 110. What is it summing up to? Right? If I take the lower end, because generally the scales are somewhere in the middle, so considering the lower end, it's about 365. Yes? Iska matlab? Already I have, or for suppose look at the higher end, how much it is? It is 405. Higher end? Yes. So average le lo 365 and 405 ka average. It is around, how much it is? 70 by 2, it is 385. 385 is average. Okay? Now, essay, the scores have been varying in essay from 75. That was never the case before 2019. It has been varying from 75 to 130. And when I say average score in essay, in the recent past, I would say around 110, right? So 385 plus 110, it is how much? 495. Here, 540. Let me take my narrative little bit forward. Pre-2019, 540. Post-2019, how much? 495. This is GS plus essay. Optional 250. How much it is? 790. If I am taking same, 745. What is my approximate cutoff? 750. It's a clear narrative from this that I need more marks in optional. Even if I am getting 250 in optional, if it is not sufficient, that fundamentally means my optional should be ranging between 270 to 290, which technically would make me some around 765 or something like that. At least I would get a comfortable mains or interview call with 20 marks match. Yes, now you might question me, sir, you came to teach anthropology, but you are doing some CSAT, some basic math. Now my narrative here, there is only one optional which will easily give you this range, and that is anthro. Why do I say that? Again, it's very logical, don't worry. Why do I say anthropology is that subject which gives me easy 250 plus or 270 or even goes up to 390 or 290, sorry. What is the narrative behind? It's very simple. Why anthro is scoring? Now, because if I answer this, my answer to why should I take anthro is taken care. Yes, why should I take anthro? Is it out of interest? We are taking anthropology for only 1 marks. To cover up the gap between GS plus essay, I am taking anthropology. My narrative is very clear. And when I talk about this dimension of why anthropology is scoring, 1, I would not say limited syllabus. Syllabus is ample amount. The first reason why is it has repeated questions. When I say repeated questions, sir, what is the degree of repeated questions in the subject like anthropology? And when I say this, what is this proportion or what is the degree of repetition? On an average, I see 14 to 18 questions out of 29 questions are repeated in one paper. That means, including choice, you know that there are 58 questions in both the papers. I would approximately have 28 to 36 questions which are repeated. That means more than 50% of the paper is leaked, provided you know PYQs, previous year questions. 1. The second reason why anthropology is scoring is, I would say, it has limited understanding. When I say limited understanding, you please understand this. I will have to know less, but apply more. This is the second reason why anthropology is scoring. Because when you go back and refer to the syllabus, as I would be giving you a mapping of the syllabus also, you would see that every year there are some themes which are constantly repeated. Every year I am able to write an answer if I have basic understanding of those. Remember this word, I am saying basic understanding. And that is only possible for me to do that in anthropology. And the third reason why is it scoring is definitely it has ample amount of sources. Third reason why I have abundance, all that I will have to do is what? Pick up things. I will have to pick up. The fourth reason why anthropology is scoring, because now when you look at anthropology as a subject, because why anthropology is done? What is anthropology? Now when I say what is anthropology, I keep talking about one basic equation for anthropology. Me being engineer, yes, most of us are engineers, yes, some would be from medical background, some BSc, yes, some BA, some BCom, yes or no, some M Pharmacy, some Pharmacy, some MBAs, but still you are sitting in anthropology class. That is the beauty of this subject. That when I say the limit of understanding of anthropology, it is from 0 to infinity, where everything is covered under sky in anthropology. And when I say why everything is covered in anthropology, it's very simple. Because when you look at anthropology as a subject, it is nothing but the study of man. We are studying about ourselves. But when we are studying about ourselves, what you see in 3 different dimensions that we are looking at. We would study the biological aspect. We would study the sociological aspect. We would study the cultural aspect. In medicine, you study only this part. In sociology, you study only this part. Culture, combination somewhere, and maybe in your arts subjects. But in anthropology, what do we see? We see that we study all the 3 dimensions of human being. And when we are studying all the 3 dimensions of human being, I keep telling that anthropology is a subject of flux. And when I say anthropology is a subject of flux, it simply means anthropology not only studies the static dimensions of these 3 aspects, but it also studies the changing elements. And when I talk about these changing elements, that is what is bringing in an aspect of dynamism in understanding of the subject. 1. Not only dynamism about understanding of the subject, but we also see this is the most contemporary subject for a reason. I'll give you some examples. Now, for suppose, if I'm talking about, say, society and culture. In the context of society and culture, when I divide my syllabus, you would see from chapter 2.1 till 5th chapter is technically society and syllabus. I would show that, don't worry. In this, I study about something like society, I study about something like culture, I study about something like marriage, I study about something like family, I study about something like kinship, I study about something like economic systems, political systems, and more importantly, we study about a concept of religion. If you would have attended yesterday's session also, sir, something similar we heard. Now you have to understand, if I am studying about marriage, yes, very interesting topic. Yes or no? Now when we are studying about marriage as a concept, we simply know marriage is nothing but a union of 2. And if I go little deeper into the understanding of marriage, and when I say it is union of 2, my limited understanding so far says union of male and female. Fantastic. But that is the static dimension of marriage. And when I study different types of marriage, like what? Monogamy and polygamy. Another static dimension is in polygamy, polyandry, polygyny, polygynandry, group marriages. There are different kinds. This is all static. But what is the dynamism that is seen in the context of marriage is, we see one dynamism that is existing called same-sex marriage. Yes? Now what is happening now? Most of us, when you look at last year, when there was a case which was put in front of Supreme Court to decide upon same-sex marriage and legalization of same-sex marriage, Supreme Court said it is the imperative of the Parliament to decide upon same-sex marriage. Fantastic. But most of us are thinking that same-sex marriage is a phenomena which is emerging today. But you have to understand, we have some societies like Azande, like newer societies which have this concept of same-sex marriage. That's been existing. And we see that to be manifesting today because of the forces like globalization, modernization, westernization, digitization, communication, education, transportation. All of these dimensions are what influencing my marriage system as a part of culture. And that the dimension doesn't end there. You see, people say marriage as an institution is reducing its relevance. Yes? Avana? After the recent case of that Meghalaya honeymoon, most of us are scared about marriage. Yes? And there are debates which have been going on. Is marriage as an institution still relevant today? Because once upon a time when somebody says marriage, what we used to say? We used to hear words like adoka pavitra bandham. Yes or no? Pelli cheyali ante iddaru manushalni kaadu 7 taralni chudali. That's a kind of understanding that was existing in the context of marriage, but we have come to a situation where we are questioning the institution of marriage. Is marriage relevant? Why? People talk about something called as a live-in relationship. People talk about something called as extramarital affairs. Yes, now somebody was telling, should be a Gen Z kid talking about something like situationship, pocketing. Yes, all these are what? Gen Z terminologies which have emerged questioning the relevance of marriage. And UPSC in 2016 and UPSC in 2020 has asked a question on the relevance of live-in relationship and how is it impacting marriage as an institution. UPSC asked that question. And we as students of anthropology, we would definitely study those dimensions. That is one understanding. But if I have to tell you, already some practices like this were existing. For example, when we see Nair society, which was studied by Kathleen Gough, I would tell you about this individual. The Nair society had concepts of biological father and sociological father. That means marriage with one, but the physical relation with the other. And they had some concept like a visiting husband. Yes. That means what you have to understand, you have to understand whatever dynamics that we see today were once upon a time existing. That means I talk about something called as evolutionary cycle. And human beings are part and parcel of this evolutionary cycle. What happens? We start at a point, we evolve, and somehow we go back to that point. That could be seen from the side of culture. That could be seen from the side of society. That could even be seen from the side of biology. Sir, justify. Now when you look at the biological systems, what happened, my dear? Once upon a time we see we were apes or we were part of primates. And what were we? We were majorly quadrupedals. That means most of our spines were bent spines. And from there slowly across the Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, we started becoming straight, erect posture. Now slowly what is happening? Now if you look at the way you are studying, what is happening? Hunchbacks. Yes, the way we are looking at things, hunchbacks. Now if somebody asks you, Ellie, water bottle diskra, how are you going? That means what? Every evolution process has a de-evolution that is existing. All of these dimensions are studied where? In Anthro. And if I have to tell you one more simple example, look at the institution of religion. In religion, what is happening? Whenever I say religion, we say that it is all sacred. Yes. But one simple understanding is, in all of the aspects of religion, we see mostly it is sacred, but we have certain secular aspects also. Yes. Now, for example, you see this charity during some puja or during some festival. What is that? That's a secular aspect. Praying to God, worshipping, and maybe chanting some verses or maybe chanting some prayer, that is more of sacred element. Fantastic. But what is happening today? Again, there is an aspect of flux. Flux here simply means what? Change, dynamism. And when we look at this flux, what is observed? We come across some phenomena called as secularization of religion. And when I say secularization of religion, it is simple understanding that the aspects of sacred are still existing, but what has happened, the aspects of secular things have increased. Look at the difference, proportion. Yes, now if I tell you a simple example, once upon a time, if this was the temple, somewhere around in 1 kilometer radius, we used to never see chappal shops. We used to never see meat shops. We used to never see alcohol shops. That means what? This used to be considered as a sacred complex till one particular point of time. But today, as soon as you come out of the temple, on your left side you will definitely see a chappal shop. Yes, slowly when you move little far away, around 200-300 meters, you will find a meat shop. That means what's happening? The secular aspects are increasing and the sacred elements are decreasing. This is one understanding of secularization of religion. This concept has been given by William Bryson. There is another interpretation. Don't you think these days we are considering the secular aspects as sacred elements? For example, recently IPL finals, what happened? RCB won the cup. Yes. And immediately after the RCB won the cup, what happened? They went for winning parade. And what generally happened? You see whole gathering coming there. That means all of them are belonging to the religion of cricket. All of them are belonging to the sect of RCB. Yes. Now don't you think we have, who is God of cricket? Why are we calling it as God of cricket? We could have said master of cricket. Why are we saying God of cricket? That means cricket today is treated as what? Religion. In the similar manner, we see what is observed, that secular aspects of life slowly started taking sacred elements. Like what? You say in Europe they treat football. In India we treat cricket. Some of us will treat some music band as a religion. Are you understanding? Now you see this Diljit who has become very famous. He is considered as what? God of Punjabi pop and Punjabi songs. Why? Music and Punjabi folk is a religion. So that means what is happening in anthropology, we study these changes which are existing all across the entities of these. And if I tell you simple observable change that you see is what? Language. Yes, Niladisi fire. Where is this coming from? Previously, we used to have pure forms. Yes, but when you look at the evolution of language, what happened? Previously, we used to have composite forms, and these composite forms emerged from some sounds. From composite, they became pure. Now, again from pure, what are they becoming? Composite. For example, Tenglish, English. Yes, what is Kiliki language? Nimda. What is that language? Is it a language? Can I call that as a language? That is called as Pidgin. That is what is called as Pidgin. What is Pidgin? Unstructured assembly of words is what is considered as Pidgin. Am I having any meaning in Nimda? No. But are we calling that as one of the language? No. Is it some sound which is unorganized? Yes. And slowly when I start adding grammar to this Pidgin, structure to this Pidgin, and when I see some sect talking about it, that becomes a Creole, and this becomes a structured language. Yes. Apart from that, if I have to tell you one simple example again, in language these days we have one concept which is seen to be emerging called as doublespeak. And when I talk about this concept of doublespeak, I'll tell you simple understanding. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen here Zomato. Did you see here Zomato? Yes. Are they being called as delivery boys or delivery executives? Delivery executives. Why? Language influences culture. When I say delivery boy and when I say delivery executive, where is more respect given to the individual? Executive. That is the concept of doublespeak. William Ludd's understanding of doublespeak. If I tell you one more simple example, आप लोग देखा होगा that Uber or your Ola or Rapido or Volta, whatever, in that, are they being called as drivers or are they being called as urban transport experts? They are being called as urban transport experts. When am I getting more respect? The same driver, because of change in language, is deriving respect. Simple. In software companies, we say layoff. Layoff means what? Teesedam. Now you see, now when I say teesedam, you're like, ayyo, papam, teesesara. Now I come out to you and, now just imagine you are my employees. Okay? And I come out to you and say that the things are changing in the world and the company is focusing on the growth. We are going for strategic restructuring of the company from tomorrow. You're like, Anna, nu cheyana first. But indirectly, what am I telling you? I am telling you from tomorrow, you are not going to be part of my company. What am I doing in this? Double speak. Language influences culture. And not only that, we also study that culture influences language. Simple. How culture is influencing language? In India, how do we refer to the office of speaker? He. President. Rashtrapati Bhavan. Yes. Why can't it be Rashtrapatni Bhavan? Yes or no? What does that mean? Patriarchal mindset of the society. Indian society is known for its patriarchal mindset. When it is known for its patriarchal mindset, it is a culture which is having male dominance. When it is a culture which is having male dominance, most of the language will be what? Male-centric in nature. That is why recently, in 2024, Supreme Court had come up with a guideline saying that from now in judiciary, we are going to go for gender-neutral terminologies. That is why now there is no more my lord. There is no more my lord in courts now. Why? Gender biased. That means, can the culture influence language? Yes. Where in Indian society we find more male-centric because of the patriarchal culture that is existing. Now that means what is happening, my dear? You would see that 90% of your life you would start understanding with anthropology. I'll tell you one simple understanding. For suppose, Intercaste marriage. Yes. How many of our parents agree for intercaste marriage? Commit avakandi. Right, this video will be sent. It will be published. How many of them agree? They don't. Why? Some maybe, very less. Can I say in this class 50% of the parents would agree for intercaste marriage? Impossible. And if I speak any extra word upon that, from tomorrow I will not be coming to the institute. Sir, meere చెడగొట్టారు మా అబ్బాయిని అంటారు. See, అబ్బాయి అమ్మాయి ఎందుకు రాలా? Culture influencing language. Now here what is happening, whenever I say intercaste marriage, why is it not accepted? You see, any caste is built on something called as we feeling. Yes, you would have heard about Manakulapodu. What is that Manakulapodu? We feeling. Now that means always we see all of this is based on something called as W.G. Sumners of understanding, we versus they. And what are we observing? When we say we are owning. When we say they, we are disowning. And are people from this group ready to move and situate in this group? No. Why are they unable to situate in that particular group? Again, there is difference in culture. When I say culture, marriage, family, kinship, yes or no? Language, religion, economic systems, political setup, whole of my understanding itself is very different. And when I say that individual's understanding is determined by the caste, and you know caste as an entity comes from what? Birth. This is what is called as ascribed status. And this is what is called as the process of enculturation. That means I am indoctrinating the feelings of caste into the kid from the birth itself. వాళ్ళతో ఆడకూడదు, వాళ్ళతో కలవకూడదు, వాళ్ళు, మనం, difference. And when we have these differences, automatically what happens? That diversity will result in differences will result in conflicts, divisions. And that is where, when the intercaste acceptance is not there, that is where we see caste conflicts emerge. What am I trying to tell you here? I am trying to tell you that any aspect of your life you will be able to understand with anthropology. That is why it is defined as a science which studies everything under the sun. You name the concept that is there. I'll tell you one simple example again. Ab maan lo, from the starting of my lecture, if I have been addressing the gathering like this, you, మీరు ఎందుకు వచ్చారు నా క్లాస్కి? అసలు ఎందుకు వచ్చారు? Do you like it? Why? Respect, disrespect. Yes. Who told you that showing finger is disrespect? Somebody told you. Yes. Did you ever ask them? No. I will tell you the reason. Anthropology tells you the reason. What happens in the primitive societies? In primitive societies, that means what? Where the science of understanding was not existing, where basic societies, what happened? Most of their religious practices or most of their belief was on superstitions. And when it is on the belief of superstition, they in fact did not much believe in religion, but most of their belief was on magic. Our ancestors in the primitive societies had a habit of throwing a magical spell on the opposite person by pointing a finger. Of abracadabra. Yes, I am not casting any spell on you. Right? That used to be the habit of the ancestor society, the evolutionary society, the primitive society. And that means what happened in those societies, their understanding was, if I point a finger, it simply means they're throwing or they're casting some magical spell on me. And that evolutionary memory started coming into us. And they started telling, don't point finger and talk to me. Why? Evolutionary memory says if I'm pointing finger, it means I'm throwing or I'm casting magical spells. Anthropology gave you an understanding? Yes. Should I give you better understanding? Yes, let me see. We see the concept of gender. Yes, male, female. The sociological perspective of sex is gender. Yes. If I tell you something, men are very good with directions. Women, generally not so good. I will not say bad. Andar na nilaju. Right? I would say not so good. Right? Generally. Men are pathetic with colors. Manaku red ante red. Pink ante okate pink telusu. Dantlo malla variants impossible. Our bandwidth of color recognition is very less. Whereas females, they are fantastic with colors. Ade red lo inni variants untayi. For us everything is red. For them red, magenta, maroon, dantlo dark maroon, light maroon. Mana question entante anni differences edunnaya akka andulo naku telusu. Do you know the answer? Anthropology gives you, this is an evolutionary memory. How is it evolutionary memory? When we look at our primitive societies again, back then, we were having something called as foraging societies. When I say foraging societies, all of these societies were dependent on what? All of these societies were majorly dependent on hunting societies. And who is to go out for hunting? It is the responsibility of the male who was going out for hunting. It is the responsibility of the female who was supposed to look after certain domestic activities. You might question me, sir, you are gender bias again here. Now the reason why they did not allow female to go, because you know that there is a natural biological process which female undergoes every month called menstruation. And you know, any animal in the wild is attracted towards blood. And in the primitive societies, most of their sanitary practices were absent. If women went out for hunting on the days of the menstruation, automatically what is going to happen? They are more vulnerable for hunting and they might be at threat and they might lose their life. That is why the evolutionary societies or the foraging societies said, let the women stay back and men go out. One reason. The second reason is that you know that generally when you hunt in the wild, you don't go out for hunting every day. You would go out for hunting maybe 3 days once, 4 days once. Now that means if I go for hunting on one day, my 4 days food has to be decided. That means should the catch be big or small? Big. And there is some physiological advantage when you look at the male candidate who can carry more weight. That is why male members used to go and female members used to stay back. And as male members used to go for hunting, automatically whole of the hunting is dependent on what? Directions. Their capacity to interpret the directions started improving over a period of time. That is where, if I talk about Lamarck theory gives about the concept of use and disuse. The male members who were existing in the foraging society, they were using that sphere of brain which is deciding which direction they should move. It developed. But when you look at the female societies, they were supposed to stay back. That means, did they have any business with respect to the sphere of direction that is existing in their brain? No. Did they use it? No. That means, did they develop? No. Are you understanding? The second side is, when you look at why male members are bad with colors, is for them it is not the matter of color, for them it is the matter of hunt. But when women were staying at the domestic, or when they were in charge of the domestic activities, they had time. When they had time, their focus was on aesthetics of the region of the stay. Now when I say somebody has to decorate, generally who is seen to be decorating things? Women. When somebody has to beautify some region, generally who is seen to be doing that? Women. I'll tell you a simple example. Look at the bachelor boy room and bachelor girl room. Very different. Why? Evolutionary memory. Our evolutionary memory is only focused on hunting, whereas the female evolutionary memory is with respect to what? Beautification and aesthetics. Evolutionary memory. Most of us are driven by evolutionary memory. Should I give you one more reason? Okay. Are you all with me? Yes. Or is it appearing alien? No. Anthropology is anthropology. Right? Technically it is the subject name which is given, but otherwise everything that we study is what? Like this only. I'll give you one more example. Okay. Now when you look at any relation in general, right? Relationship बोलते हैं ना आजकल चल रहे हैं, right? उसमें ज़्यादा बहुत variants हैं, right? Gen Z kids have different terms. Right, after my long UPSC journey, I failed to understand all of those. Impossible to understand. Right, that is the beauty of language again, which emerges every day. Now here when you look at any relation, in general observation, again there is a comparison between male and female which is made. Now when you look at this male and female which is made in the context of religion, in the context of relation, what is observed? Generally, male is less committed to a relation, but whereas female is more committed to a relation. General. When you look at this reason why female is more committed to relation, why men are less committed to relation, why female is more affectionate to the children, why male is comparatively less affectionate. You might question me, sir, you are gender biased. I am not. My ancestors were. The evolutionary memory that I am carrying, I am sharing it with you. Now here when you understand this theory, there is a beautiful research philosophy which is written on this. I am not telling anything. It's all understanding, it's all research. When you look at this, why women are more committed to a relation, why women are more affectionate? Because you see, women have a burden of carrying for 9 months. With this carrying of 9 months, what happens is the physiological aspects of women changes. Yes, before pregnancy, after pregnancy, there is definitely a physiological change that is occurring. That is what we study in our 11.1 fertility and fecundity of anthropology. There is emotional change which is happening. There is psychological change which is happening after these 9 months. That means what is observed? For 9 months, women have to bear with this burden. If this burden was for 1 day, they could feel that as burden. If it is for 9 months, what happens? They start developing a sense of attachment. This attachment, this sense of their bearing ability turns into affection. But whereas when you look at male, what happens? The evolutionary memory of male says that always male wanted to achieve something called as immortality. When I say male always wanted to achieve something called as immortality, what does that mean? When I say immortality means what? I should not die. I should be living forever. But is it possible? No. Why? Because most of our lifespan is what? Maximum is 120. Aajkal with the impact of lifestyle diseases and all, should I do by 2 or by 4? Sometimes by 4. Increasing incidence of heart attacks. Yes, 30. Right? If we are lucky, we cross, and then this becomes by 2, 60. The impact of lifestyle diseases. Epidemiological transition. Last year we had a question in anthropology on this. What is the impact of lifestyle diseases on the disease burden that is existing in the Indian society? Now here, when you see immortality as a character, you know that the individual cannot attain immortality. Individual will have to die at some point because we always age. In order to realize this immortality, what has male done? Male wants to have more kids. What is the purpose of more kids? His genes, his genetic material, his ఆయన అంశ అంటాం, అంశ అనేది చాలా పెద్ద పదం. But here what is happening? The immortality of the male is achieved through proliferation. If I am having more kids, it technically means it is my genetic substance which is living for long. It is my genetic substance which is existing for long. నేనున్నా నా జీన్స్ ఉన్నా ఒకటే. So that's why what happens, male always look at proliferation. And in this context, what happens? The male has a limited capacity which is seen. If the male is engaged with one woman, can he proliferate more? No. That is why what happens? What happens? They are less committed with a view of achieving immortality through what? Proliferation. I'll give you a simple example. Elon Musk. Yes. Elon Musk, recently there was a news also that Elon Musk forced his employee to have to bear his kids. Elon Musk has more than 10 kids. Why? He categorically says, I don't want my genes to die. That is his problem or his evolutionary problem? Evolutionary problem. Are you understanding? अरे वन मोर. ठीक है. पेल्ली चूपलू. Yes. That means this matrimony websites and all. Now what happens in matrimony websites or what happens in this marriage alliance choosing? If it comes to male, 6 feet, tall, strong, oka Amarendra Bahubali, minimum. Yes, but when it comes to female, fair, podu jada, that is the requirement they say. What is this? This is the concept of eugenics. 12th chapter, last 3 lines, you will see something called as eugenics. What is eugenics? Promotion of good genes and deletion of bad genes. Now again, why most of our parents don't agree when we say that we are going to marry our cousin? Yes, we have in South India cross cousin marriages. And we say cross cousin marriages from the side of the father we don't accept, but from the side of the mother mostly we accept. But some of the times they say that no, let us not marry from within the family. Why? 9.2 chapter, the impact of consanguineous and non-consanguineous on the genes of the offspring. That is where we'll discuss those concepts. So that means what is happening, my dear? Every layman understanding that we have in our life, who is giving you the explanation? Anthropology is giving you the explanation. That fundamentally means, why should you study anthropology? You should study anthropology to understand yourself better and to understand your surroundings better. Why should you study anthropology? Because anthropology makes your life more meaningful. Why should you study anthropology? Because anthropology enhances your decision making capacities, because you not only study society, you not only study culture, but you also study the biological aspect. Now tomorrow, if you are working in the office, in the administration, suddenly a female employee comes and says that I need an off because of the menstruation today. And you might be not aware about that. You might not be sensitive about that. And in that context, what is happening? Why should I give you leave? You please continue. I study anthropology to increase the human sensitivities in the relation that you are existing in. I study anthropology to score 270. I study anthropology to understand my life, to understand society, to understand me, to understand my thoughts, to understand my decision, to understand my colleagues, to understand my peers, to understand my family, to understand goddamn everything on this earth. I study anthro. That is what is anthropology. Everything and anything under the sky, anthropology. And what did we see all of this? In all of this, only one thing that we have seen. Either it is society, either it is culture, or either it is biology. That's it. Are you understanding? Right? This is what is anthro, and it is a very, very lively subject. Unnecessarily, people in the market, they say anthropology is very static. Is it static? చెప్పేవాడి మీద ఆధారపడుతుంది. Is it static? Impossible. Anthropology is the most dynamic subject. That is why they say it is a sin if you restrict the anthropology to only anthropologists. And it is a boon that if you study anthropology, or if anthropology is being studied by non-anthropologists also. I gave you a brief overview of anthropology. Now coming to the course. Right? You see, paper 1 I will be dealing with, and paper 2 will be dealt by Nadeem Hasnain sir. You should know a little bit about this man. Right? In fact, I would feel very small to talk about a stalwart in anthropology called Nadeem Hasnain sir. And it's my privilege to share the subject with him. Why? His books are the most referred books for anthropology. You go to any student of anthropology and you see their book rack of anthropology, they will definitely have at least Tribal India by Nadeem Hasnain sir. He is the person who is going to come and teach you paper 2. Nowhere in India he teaches, except at this place. Except at this place. And you can cross-check. You can cross-check with respect to his books. Randomly you go to your friend, Bhaiya, anthropology, yes, show me your book rack. You will definitely see a black color book with white color letters written Tribal India by Nadeem Hasnain sir. That is one of his masterpieces. One of his masterpieces. And sir has been part of evaluation, sir has been part of paper setting team of UPSC. So he knows what it requires. Right, sir is going to handle paper 2, I will be handling paper 1. What all will we be offering in the class? 1, we would deal with the basic concepts. We would deal with every topic of the syllabus. It is my habit that after every chapter, I open the syllabus copy and I would show to the students which all topics have we covered. And I would tick in front of them, in front of the class, that I would have covered all the topics. That's my habit. We believe in transparency with respect to that system. Every topic of the syllabus will be covered. Now sir, you are telling covering, what does this mean? This will have dictated notes in the class 1. This will have dictated value addition in the class. When I say value addition, that is what is the dynamic aspects of the subject. Now I can challenge whatever I spoke in the real-time example, right? That is my masterpiece of interlinkage with respect to the subject. And when I say coverage, it means interlinkages. That means socio-cultural will be linked with physical anthro, both of them will be linked with Indian anthro, and all three will be linked with tribal anthro. That is the essence of anthropology. You don't do this, your score is 220 to 230. You add dynamism to anthropology, it jumps to 260. You add this interlinkage, it jumps to 280. It is a tested fact. It is a tested fact. It is a tested fact. Now from here, what about this, sir? That will depend upon how well are you able to present your concepts to the examiner. I would say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Simple yet profound. How are you able to explain the concepts to the examiner? And we would see notes, value addition, interlinkage. And from this year, I have introduced one innovative mechanism called as one-pager handout. I'll show you an example of one-pager handout. Is that? This is how a one-pager handout looks like. This is a concept in structuralism, right? Generally, when I dictate notes, it's over 10 to 12 pages of notes on two thinkers of structuralism, that is Levi-Strauss and Edmund Leach. Now, you need to have something to quickly revise, right? What I have decided to do is, I have decided to summarize all of that in one-page handout. You see, key thinkers, their contribution, main ideas, whatever the field work has been done by them, and then what kind of methodology, what are the case studies that we discuss as part of that particular chapter, and what is the relevance in anthropology, and what is the criticism. Every theory will have criticism, no theory is perfect, and other contributions in class. No na class karavalga, right? And if I give this handout, don't you think people will take away my interlinkage? My interlinkages is the speciality. I will keep on throwing thinkers from here to there. You will be like, how, sir? That is the mastery of the subject that I have, because I have written 6 on 6 mains with anthropology. So that means Nadeem sir is both subject expert and exam expert. I am more of exam expert. What to focus, what to write, how to score, what will make you cross that threshold of 270, 280. Now I am very careful in using my words about 270, 280. You would never hear 300 plus from my mouth. Yes, but all of you would want, sir, 300, 300. I am being very practical. From 280 to 300, it demands exceptional levels of clarity. It demands exceptional levels of clarity, and that is individual specific, I would say. Okay. Now, along with this basic concepts and understanding, you would also have tests which are covered, right? Now, tests, somebody will promise daily tests. I don't believe in the concept of daily tests. Why? Do you think answers will improve every day? Impossible. Answer writing and gym, both are very same. నువ్వు రోజు వెళ్ళి అద్దంలో అన్నావు అనుకో, రోజు ఏం మారుతుంది? మారుతుంది ఏమన్నా? ఏం మారుతుంది. Answer writing also is the very same process, which is slow, enduring, demanding patience. It will change. It will change. And it will change visibly. And when you talk about these tests, one thing let me clarify, the question papers are given by me. Answer explanation is given by me. Evaluation is done by me. Right? No outsourcing business. Like generally people give evaluators to evaluate. నేను అంత బిజీ కాదు జీవితంలో. I think all my priority is my subject. Right? And if I am able to do that, it is doable, I am telling you. Right? So the test will be done, explained and evaluated by me. Along with this, you would have answers of all the PYQs which are written by me from 2013 till 2024. I have written them for every question. If questions are repeated, I would have written the same answer as what I have written previously from 2013 till 2024, which technically means how much? Every year 29 questions per paper, 58 questions for 2 papers. Like that, how many years? 12 years. From 2013 till 24, it is around 12 years. All of those answers are there. They are written by me, not by content team. I don't have team. मतलब content team होगा, evaluation team होगा, question paper team होगा, नहीं है मेरे पास. नहीं चाहता हूँ भी. Everything is done by me. Right? Along with this, we would finish the syllabus in 4 months. Right? I am not promising 2 months, 2.5. नहीं होगा यार. It is not revision course. Now for strategic revision for this year mains, I will take whole anthropology only in 25 sessions. That is revision. This is detailed course where we will have lot of dictations, we will have lot of... I forgot to get the notes of last batch, right? I should have got it. ठीक है. It's a detailed notes with all the value additions and the dynamics which are included, and the course would be completed in 4 months, right? So these are some of the basic deliverables that I would like to promise, and we would like to promise from our side at any cost. If any of this is not meted, if it is not met, you can definitely come and question us, right? You will have management's number, you will have my number, you will have all of us. You can contact anybody. Sir, you did not teach us this particular concept, right? Don't worry, you will not have any scope for that. That will be taken care by me at any cost, right? So this is the basic course dimension. Now basic review of syllabus आप लोग एक बार देख लेना यार. Anthro का syllabus है, right? And I think if you have decided to take anthropology, syllabus is the key. And if I have to divide whole of anthro, I would say it is 4. 1 is socio-cultural anthro, 2 archaeological anthro, 3 biological anthro, 4 linguistic anthro. These are the 4 branches, and whole of your syllabus will be divided into 4. The application of this to the Indian context is what is paper 2. Is what is paper 2, where you apply all of these dimensions, and most of these dimensions, paper 2. And whenever I am giving linkages, interlinkages, as I told you, I would be linking paper 1 with paper 2 at any cost, and sir would be linking paper 2 with paper 1 at any cost. Because you can never write anthropology without linkages between the concepts, right? Because population is related to biology. The same population is related to socio-cultural aspect. The same population is related to some evolutionary dimension, where I will talk about evolutionary theories of menarche and menopause in women. That means what? It has all the 3 dimensions that have to be understood. And there we will add one particular extension to the Indian context. That is what is second chapter in your paper 2. That is demographics in India. Right? So generally, this is what is the syllabus. Anyway, when I start my course, initial 3 days would only be on syllabus and PYQs. I would not do anything for initial 3 days. I will give you details of syllabus. I will give you details of PYQs, and I'll show you what is the overlap with respect to PYQs. And then I would start my lecture, because the starting of the lecture will have a different course altogether. I would start directly from some aspects of 2.1 and 2.2. Prior to that, I will start some aspects of approaches in anthropology. We have 12 approaches in anthropology. And I would say whole of anthropological understanding is divided into these 12 debates and 12 approaches. And from there we would open up the subject. Right? So this is it from my side. If you wish to ask some questions, I am more than happy. No questions, I am not happy. You want to know the class timings? The class timings is from morning 6 to 8. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Right? For the previous batch, it was 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. I thought we will have to do from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Let me tell you my history here again. I don't know how many of you know my prelims course called as High Impact Revision, which is done at the institution. And when you look at High Impact Revision program, we start the class at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we have been doing that for last 3 years. And fantastically, we have 300 plus students attending at 6 o'clock in the morning. I would have beautiful mornings. Right? You want it little early? Are you disappointed that I am starting it at 6? I am ready from 4 o'clock. Anything is fine. Sir, you say 4:15, I am fantastically present. 4:30? Easy. Right? The class timings is from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Right? The reason again. Now don't say evolutionary significance. The reason is very simple. I don't want to disturb rest of your day. You should have your own time of preparation. Because anthropology should be giving you a beautiful morning, and it should be giving you a boost for rest of the day. That is my promise. And you started fresh, it is fresh. Right? A class coach in Nidravotam, sir. Don't worry. That's my headache. Right? You can never sleep in my class. Impossible. I will use some anthropology theory and wake you up. Don't worry. Right? So for now the class timings is at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Any other questions you wish to ask? I am more than happy. One after the other. After some part of paper 1, you would have paper 2 being integrated. That will be taken care. Yes. Any other? ఇంకేమన్నా ధర్మ సందేహాలు అంటే అడగండి. Date of the start is 23rd June. 23rd June we are starting the course. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Initial 3 sessions will only be syllabus and PYQs. Then I will get you acquainted with the terms, and then I will start the subject. Right? Any other question? ఇంకేమన్నా? Anthropology is easy. Very easy. Right? You go and tell all of this to your roommates. పారిపోతారు వాళ్ళు. Right? No. It actually gives you a deeper insights. That is there with the subject. Okay? Is it programmed for Mains 2025? My dear, Mains 2025 is strategic revision program which we are starting tomorrow. For Mains strategic revision program, the time is from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay? That is in the evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is a full course, foundation course for anthropology. That is from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Right? Okay. Any other? Happy? Yes. Smile. Why we have evolved, and smile is a evolutionary character. Have you ever seen a cow smiling? No. So smile, enjoy. Okay? See you in the class. Thank you.